Scott with SJWellfire.com. Final Days Report, episode 482, USA Inc. and its genocide of Christians around the world, especially the Middle East. When will this come home to the United States? And are there some telltale signs it is coming? This is a deep one, my friends. This destroys Christian Zionism. This destroys the Schofield Bible. And if you think about this, the Schofield Bible was supported by members of the Lotus Club that literally supported Lenin and Stalin, that massacred Christians, the ultimate genocide of Christians. Once you realize we're dealing with satanic powers to eliminate Christianity, I'm convinced that's the Russia-Ukraine war. Just have a stagnant World War I type of setting to eliminate Christians. Your eyes will be awake to this, the theater of war, this script, with Christians being the ultimate prize. And folks, this is coming home to the United States and to Western nations, big time. And this story somewhat proves it before we get into the Middle East genocide of Christians. And it's brought to you by USA Inc. and Israel, the woman of the book of Revelation, in my humble opinion. But Google's new motto, don't be a Christian. That's from a headline from The Blaze, End Times headlines. Are we witnessing soft censorship of Christian content with Google? You think this is how it starts. And then if you follow this ministry, AI is going to censor everything. Get your digital ID biometric papers, please. Everything you do will be monitored. And if you worship Jesus Christ, it'll be off with your head with Noahide laws. You can see this beast system being built right in front of your eyes. We probably cover the beast system 30 to 40% of our podcast. New laws to shut down your cars that we've been warning about. Keep your old cars, my friends. But let's get into Christian persecution because it's coming. Concerns are rising over what some are calling soft censorship of Christian content on major tech platforms. Recent reports highlight growing claims that faith-based media and ministries are facing increasingly difficulty advertising or distributing content online. Recent reports highlight growing claims that faith-based media and ministries are facing increasingly difficulty advertising or distributing content online. So we know they're pulling back means to distribute, but not taking your money, particularly through major programs like Google and TikTok. Who owns TikTok now? Has that transpired? The controversy now centers on TruePlay, a relatively unknown app that produces faith-based games and videos for children designed as a family-friendly alternative to mainstream content. The platform avoids themes many parents find objectionable and instead focuses on religious storytelling and values. See, they don't want your kids to have values. That's why they gave us the psyop of the drag queue at libraries. What a joke. Despite what its supporters describe as a clear market demand, TruePlay has struggled to gain traction through paid promotion. According to the American Center for Law and Justice, Google declined to run the app's advertisements, citing concerns tied to religious content. Folks, just think about when this gets so bad, when they ban the Bible under hate speech, that's antiseptic, and that it's not love, goes after reprobate behavior, Romans 1. You can see this a mile away. You're going to be underground with your King James Version Bible. You're going to be worshiping Christ, lip syncing in certain places where you get together. That's how bad it's going to get. It's a dream I had years ago. But I want to get into USA Inc.'s involvement with eliminating Christians. And it's just interesting. The nuclear bomb that we dropped in Japan really went after a Christian community. Let's read. Nagasaki, the atomic bombing and the Christian crossroads. The bomb detonated over Urakami area, the heart of Japan's Christian heritage. The community had only recently reemerged from centuries of suppression, with many faithful living in secret for over 250 years. In total, the Nagasaki bombing killed tens of thousands of Christians, with the Urakami area alone representing a catastrophic loss of life for Japan's Christian population. So my question is, was this done by design? seems to be a pattern from these Freemason Luciferian scumbags that are involved in NASA, right? Summoning in demons. But let's get into the Christian genocide and eradication in the Middle East. And I'll tell you the why as well at the end. But first of all, Lebanon. If you're a Christian Zionist hoodwinked by the Schofield Bible that was funded by the same people that funded Stalin, that murdered all the Christians in Russia, the Bolshevik Revolution, brought to you by the Synagogue of Satan. If you're for Israel wiping out Lebanon, folks, you are hoodwinked. So today, and I think all life is precious. I pray people in Israel get saved, Muslims get saved, and I root for my fellow Christian brother and sisters. But today, as of 2025, approximately 30 to 35% of the population, though the exact figures are estimates, because Lebanon has not had an official census since 1992, are Christian. So 35%, 2 to 2.4 million Christians. So Christians, Western Christians, U.S. Christians are rooting for Israel to wipe out the Christian heritage, the true Semitic people that tie back to Abraham's seed, according to a John Hopkins genetics study. And John Hopkins, is a very, very liberal school, but it's a very sharp school, a peer-reviewed study. I mean, just total sense, right? And we've covered the whole joke of bless Israel and you'll be blessed. It's bless Abraham. Abraham was protected and blessed by God to bring forth Jesus Christ, our Savior, right? For the new covenant. This is very, very clear to see. Break from this, who the chosen people are. Then we think about the genocide in Gaza. 1% of the population identified as Christians, probably gone. Probably your oldest Christians around. Has lineage back to Jesus Christ. And never forget this. The IDF Palantir targeting system is called the gospel. What are they implementing here in the United States? AI targeting system? Palantir capabilities. This is a war on Christianity. And what I find interesting, there's a laundry list of these wars in the Middle East that destroy Christian heritage sites. It's sickening. They're trying to wipe Christianity off the face of the earth. It reminds me of Antifa wiping out statues in our history here in the United States. Total communist playbook. So I root for Christians. I pray people get saved, because at the end of the day, this life is just a shadow. And the Bible is mathematically impossible to not be true. So let's continue down USA Inc.'s eradication of Christianity, Libya. We've talked a lot about Gaddafi, how he was going and threatening the dollar with a gold-backed African currency, how he was greening the desert with primary source water, giving away free land, and Christians loved him. I probably listened to 10 podcasts of different Christians, how Gaddafi protected them. Before 2011, Libya had an estimated 300,000 Christians representing 5% of the population, depending upon the source. But after USA Inc. came and saw and killed them and destroyed their primary water system and just brought in total instability, thanks for the democracy, Christians are saying. It's what a scam from the pit of hell. After the war and instability, current estimates are 34 to 36,000 Christians remain, or less than 0.5% of the population. So from 5% to less than 1% of the population. And the top most dangerous places for Christians, Libya. USA Inc. hates Christians. Iraq. Before the 2003 U.S.-led invasion, pre-ISIS, approximately 1.5 million Christians, or 6% of the population. Post, it's roughly around 150 to 250,000. So from 1.5 million to 250,000. Now, these are all estimates, but this represents an 80% decline driven by the violence after 2003 and the ISIS takeover. Remember, we just gave all these weapons to ISIS. ISIS is us. It's Israel. It's USA Inc. Even Obama slipped up with that. We're training the ISIL forces that we played in this ministry. They're displacing, genociding Christians with insecurity. Your government, your taxpayer dollars. This is a war on Christianity. And think about the false flag to get us in that war with the baby incubators. Oh, just lie. We're going to find those weapons of mass destruction somewhere. They're laughing at you. Syria. Christians loved Assad, and there was that massive false flag with the gas. I mean, this is just a total scam. But the 10 most dangerous places for Christians, number 6 is Syria. So before the 2011 civil war, pre-ISIS rise of 2013-2014, Christians numbered 1.5 to 2.1 million, about 10% to 12% of Syrians' population, and they loved Assad. Today, post-civil war, and ISIS, as of 2022-2025, estimates are around 250,000 to, let's say, 580,000, roughly 1 to 3% of the remaining population, with many reports citing around 300,000 or fewer. So from 2.1 million to 300,000, and there's just a ton of sources that are all over the board that I put down lower. So they're massive ranges. This is a genocide. And again, they destroyed many, many prominent Christian heritage sites, wiping out the history. You should be pissed. This is evil. And so now we got to watch, how are they going to get us there into this mark of the beast system, right? To make it where you can't partake in this society. You wouldn't have the means to buy and sell. Well, we've always said and been warning about cyber polygon for years, the digital plandemic. And this is a bit older of a story that happened, I think, last month. But what is Mythos AI, and why could it be a threat to global cybersecurity? Well, according to a Bloomberg report citing anonymous sources, documentation and examples of Mythos up and running alleges that a group of users accessed the Mythos model without Anthropic's authorization. So Anthropic has Claude AI. It's a pretty powerful AI system. And Mythos supposedly is this new model. This is that story we covered with Anthropic wouldn't give the Pentagon the means for autonomous kill decision by AI robots. They wanted a human involved, and they also did not want to spy on Americans. Supposedly now they're in talks again. But Mythos is said to be capable of exploiting vulnerabilities in every major operating system and every major web browser if the user intends to do so, according to Anthropic. So this amazing AI can crack everything, and you're just going to see a massive digital plandemic that we've been primed for with the World Economic Forum that'd be 10 times worse or multiple times worse than COVID-19. And what's going to be the solution? These clowns are going to give you your digital ID papers, please. It'll be the mark of the beast system, all while they're stealing all your jobs with robots and artificial intelligence to make you comply into their system. You can see this a mile away. Now, why are they eliminating Christians, especially in the Middle East? Well, Christians have power. I always say this. We have power. There's over 100 Bible verses about spiritual warfare. And there's obviously Ephesians 6 that Pastor Larry always talks about. Make sure you study Ephesians 6. But Luke 10:19 I always love as well. Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions over the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. And what I find interesting, I wonder with what I covered with Christians getting persecuted, when you really study the history of growth of Christianity, being thrown to the lion's den, Christianity grew. It grew. Kind of reminds me of the Pharaoh really punishing Israel, and they kept exploding in the Old Testament. But while some apostatized under pressure, the courage of martyrs often inspired awe and conversions. The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church. Tertullian quoted that. So where's the church now in the Middle East? Satan's trying to destroy it because he knows those people have power over the principalities and the powers and against the rulers in the darkness of this world. Spiritual wickedness in high places because we have power. Now, I want to pivot a bit because I listen to a lot of news while I travel, and it's just funny to me, the Southern Poverty Law Center and Trump going after them, basically funding both sides, the order out of chaos. And this is the left version of the false flag engine, linked to AIPAC, linked to probably the synagogue of Satan when you look at who is involved with the Southern Poverty Law Center. But it's just funny. Everybody's cheering it on. Yes, the false flag narrative that was involved with so many different incidences. The big one they're talking about is paying a Klan leader, and then some of the different events that happened with Antifa and the right, just paying both sides, right? The strategy of tension, create the trauma, have the solution. And so what's funny is this came out, and a lot of the, I'm going to say, controlled opposition were like, yes, Trump's doing great. I call balls and strikes, and he's going after the left. He's going after this false flag engine. And then all of a sudden we had the ballroom false flag, in my humble opinion, right? There's somebody that basically mentioned on a hot mic that there's no security at this event. And then the script, eight shots fired just randomly, and the person that shot had an IDF shirt. And Fox News cut somebody off talking about how strange it was in the warning before the event even happened.
I want to just quickly tell you, I was sitting next to Caroline Levitt, the press secretary's husband. He was one of our guests. He was seated right next to me. And, right as the dinner was starting, the national anthem happened. And then he kind of leaned over and said, I watched you on TV. You do a great job. You need to be very safe. And he was just very serious when he said that to me. And he kind of looked around the room and he said, there are some.
Sounds like we lost Aisha's phone there. And this happens, by the way, especially when you have so many people attempting to utilize the same cell service at the same time.
Is he not?
He is ready to rumble. I will tell you, this speech tonight will be classic Donald J. Trump. It'll be funny. It'll be entertaining. There will be some shots fired tonight in the room. So everyone should tune in.
My best friend and I went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. We ended up leaving early because something felt off. It started the second we got there. Every event we've ever been to, especially at this level, there are layers of security. Bags checked, IDs checked, actual process. This time, nothing. Zero. We were just asked if we had tickets. Said yes and got waved through. Yeah, that's how easy it is. No bag check, no real screening, no line, just thousands of people packed together being pushed through the doors as fast as possible. It felt wrong immediately, like viscerally wrong. My best friend literally turns to me and says, I think something's going to happen. And then it did. This cannot happen. Not here. Not at something like this. Praying for everyone, but there needs to be accountability because this should never happen again. See, even that person doesn't get it.
And it just so happened that the ballroom basically was stopped from a court order. But if it has something to do with security, then they can actually build this military AI system that probably the Antichrist will be hooked up to, in my humble opinion, that we've covered, my theory on this. Because it's just interesting. There's a new architect in town, Shalom Barnese, I guess, right? Part of the tribe, but they worked on the Pentagon, the pentagram, the Treasury. Folks, they're building what I suspect is the mark of the beast system for the Antichrist to sit. That dream I had in 2008 where the Antichrist was hit with the spirit of destiny and they put his head on a quantum computer and he showed up as a hologram. I wonder if this is the place that this will be fulfilled within this building. Because you need to think about this. Trump defends White House ballroom as shed for secret military complex beneath. What are they building? Because who's funding this? We've covered this before. Tech corporations, Amazon, Apple, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Comcast, Caterpillar. Caterpillar is more farming, but Caterpillar is becoming a software company, all these equipment companies, where if the thing busts, you have to pay a licensing fee with many of these companies. I'm not sure if Caterpillar is one of them, to operate your machine. Lockheed Martin, T-Mobile, Crypto and Finance, Coinbase, Ripple, Tether, Palantir. I mean, this is evil. Who's funding it? What is underneath this? It's the beast system. It's got to be. After another attack on Trump that, we need to start the ballroom again. I mean, what a joke. This is a joke. So no, your false flag narrative is not going to go away just because maybe the left with the Southern Poverty Law Center is cut off. In my spirit, the false flags are going to get bigger. You're going to see missiles hit the United States. You're going to see digital plandemics, digital meaning cyber attacks. You're going to see electricity shut down. You're just going to see bigger and bigger and bigger false flags. Go big or go home. Because Satan has but a short time. But what a joke. This, to me, I've heard nobody say this, and this is not thus says the Lord. This is just my opinion that they are building this AI beast system under this ballroom for the Antichrist to reside over. Now, what does this all mean? As this whole thing gets hot, as what's happened in the Middle East, as what's happened in Japan, as what happened to the Christians under Stalin, as what's happening to the Christians in the UK and those soldiers just getting destroyed with the meat grinder. Where do we need to have our mindset? Well, spiritual warfare, we need to pray against this stuff. We need to pray that their weather weapons are destroyed, that the beast system is delayed, that people come to Christ that are part of this satanic system, that people get saved, that the leaders of Israel that are genocided and stealing Lebanon's land, that they come to Christ and repent. We need to pray for protection. Ultimately, I pray that people in war zones get saved, that they call out to Jesus Christ, because that's the most important thing, is that it's a soul battle, right? But Romans 8:35 through 37, who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword? Powerful. Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. Occupy till he returns. This life is just a shadow. God bless. Thanks for your support. Please forward this on. Old school with letters, post-it notes, conversation. God bless.